This is really our introduction to the town proper. Not only the characters, it's the first time we're actually seeing the main drag of the town. It's very early on in the film. We get right into the middle of this fight that has spilled out into the street. I'll just say that, and then we can read through it.
Word is, Apaches took Doubtful Canyon and Grant Station last week, snatching people right out of their beds.
The genesis of the project was there was a comic done by Platinum Studios that caught our eye for its title. And I think in a world where studios are very frequently looking for big titles, there are not a lot that really stand out. And this was one that really stood out to us, but it stood out to us not just because it was a catchy title, but the promise of genre blending in a very unique way that people had never seen before.
The thing that I kept wondering was, why hadn't anybody done anything like this before?
The idea of cowboys and aliens coexisting in the same universe was really provocative. It causes you to react in an extreme way, and anything that causes you to react in an extreme way, I think, is ultimately pretty compelling.
I've always felt like the Western could be tweaked for this sort of blending of genres.
Rehearsal and action. The cowboy logic of it is that this is between us.
I think the key for movies like this, especially movies that are based on comic books, is to take what's real about the comic and make it feel real on screen without sacrificing the kind of larger-than-life quality of a comic.
No one's ever done anything like taking the Old West and having aliens land and invade at that time. I don't know why no one's ever done it. For me, I've been doing it in my head since I was a kid. I always loved playing a different version of cowboys and Indians. Instead of guns, it'd be like little sci-fi guns.
It becomes about doing something familiar, but make it fresh by the way you combine these things.
I'm sure it's been played out millions of times in little kids' bedrooms with their own toys, and we brought it to the screen.
A lot of people have come to believe that visitors from outer space had something to do with the building of the pyramids. And so it just seemed that if ancient Egyptians had had an interaction, why couldn't pioneers of the West?
Sure, this could have happened, and it would have been wild.
Where's our gold, Jake?
Our movie hit the West with all of its tension.
In the West, people looked at each other sideways, and there was racism, and there was hardship.
The best Westerns acknowledge, all of it. Deceit and crime, all of those frontier aspects that really existed and created a lot of drama and a lot of tension.
All of these people, whether it's the cowboys, the Apaches, the Chiricahua, in the Old West, if you look at that situation, it was a very uncomfortable time to live. It certainly wasn't safe or easy.
Well, I'm gonna need you to come with us. Wouldn't do that if I was you.
Everybody okay? You run good?
There's this great palette of characters to draw from and imagery, but it's made a little bit fresher by the fact that you are now creating an effects show around the backdrop of a Western.
When you hear a title like Cowboys and Aliens, you may think something very pulpy, and there is a certain fun and pulp associated with it, but when you see the tone that Jon Favreau brings to it, you see that you can really imagine it happening.
I think the thing that I really respect that, Alex and Bob and the writers and Jon Favreau did with this concept was keeping it authentic. And they can get all real from the standpoint of the characters.
When you look away from him or you look away from each other in that last beat, it makes you have to sort of start again. So I'd love for the last line he says, I don't want to do that again, to make you both look at each other, kind of laugh, and let the laugh turn into a still moment and turn into...
Got it.
It was so important for all of the filmmakers that we wanted to make, first and foremost, a good Western.
What's happened to the Western is it's gotten absorbed into other genres. If you think about Star Wars, what they did in a very clever way was borrow the iconography of the West and then update it with science fiction.
It was the opportunity to take advantage of the humanity of the Western and then to fold into it a sense of contemporary interests. Sort of a genius concept.
They're coming back!
If the aliens never came down in this story, there's a tremendous story of conflicted characters and a kind of range war that starts to bubble up to the surface at the very first act.
I need that weapon. It's the only thing that counts.
It's cool to see characters who would have been shooting at one another a few days before are suddenly forced to try to survive together.
As a movie, it makes perfect sense. It's a very imaginative, but somehow emotionally relatable story.
These are real people in this real situation. And the more you feel like you're part of this world, the more exciting and interesting it becomes when everything gets turned on its ear. Here we have an opportunity in Cowboys and Aliens to take what is mythically very satisfying and then update all of it by using all the cutting-edge technology, and that's the fun part for me.